endeavour, initiative and resilience like that which shows us the way for Britain's future. And it also shows me the spirit of British business, which we've seen very graphically over these last few very, very tough years, when you've carried on producing the wealth our country needs in the most difficult economic times, and I want to thank you for that. And let me also reflect on what David Sainsbury and others on the panel said. There is no way for this country to succeed without you, businesses, big and small, succeeding. And today I want to talk to you about how we can build on the strengths we have, but do better, and build the better country we all want to see. And I want to start maybe at a point which is not the point you'd expect, which is to talk about the challenge we face in this country to the established institutions of the country. Because we meet here at a time of profound doubt about the established institutions of Britain. If you take politics 5 years on from the expenses crisis, politics still faces massive problems of trust. So many people doubt whether any politician or any political party can possibly solve the problems they see in their own lives. And many of you in business have told me over the last few years that we also meet at a time when you are incredibly worried about the atmosphere in this country when it comes to business, because you feel there is insufficient appreciation for what business does for Britain. And I know that sometimes some of you believe that politicians make a contribution to this problem of trust rather than solving the problems of trust. And it is right, as others have said, that politicians celebrate the great work of British business. And this is part of the point of today. But I also know that you don't lay the blame for this crisis of trust solely at the door of politicians. Because as people like John Cridland and Mark Carney have said recently, 7 years on from the banking crisis, there are profound issues that the country is grappling with. And that is my argument today, and that is my starting point. Because I think there is something deep which explains the loss of trust facing so many of our institutions. Essentially, established institutions are held responsible for the condition of the country. And we currently face a generational challenge unlike the normal challenges we face, which goes far beyond one business or one industry, one party, one government, or even, dare I say it, one election. In fact, it is a challenge that countries all around the world are grappling with. Now, my shorthand for it is the cost of living crisis. But it's about much, much more than the pound in people's pocket. I think many of you will see it in your own workforces and the lives of your customers. It's about the nature of work and whether people can make ends meet. It's about the security and insecurity people feel. It's about the prospects for the next generation and whether people feel that their kids will have a better life than them. So many people feel that their children won't. Now, these deep challenges, and this is a point Andrew Adonis made at the end, come from long-standing problems, in my view, in our economy, which have existed for decades but have not been tackled. Now, the financial crisis represented, if you like, the moment when the tide went out and those problems, those rocks, if you like, were exposed. So the causes of the discontent we see began before the recession. And that's a very important clue for what we need to do as a country. Because just as the problems began before the recession, so the solutions won't come from recovery alone. The challenge we face is to tackle these long-standing, deep-seated problems. That is the central mission I see for the government I want to lead in 10 months' time. So we can build, as the title of the conference suggests, a prosperity in which all can share, right across Britain, and in a fair way. Now, how do we do that? We've got to create the high-paying, high-skilled jobs that Mike Wright was talking about that are central to improving the condition of Britain. That's the only way we can achieve this mission, through your success. The great dynamic businesses of our country, creating the jobs, making the profits, competing, as David Sainsbury said in his remarks, in a race to the top for high wages and high skills, not a race to the bottom. And addressing the long-standing productivity and competitiveness challenges that our country undoubtedly faces so that we can pay our way in the world. Now, my argument is we won't succeed in this race to the top by carrying on as we are. Or with big spending by government, and that's a challenge for my party, but instead with big reform. reform of the way government works, and reform of the way the market works too. It is the way people will succeed, it's the way business will succeed, and in my view, it is the way Britain will succeed. Now, the agenda I want to talk about is a reform agenda that we have fashioned on the basis, and you've heard from some of the panel on this already, over 4 years based on the dialogue we've had with many of you. And today I want to focus on 5 central challenges that I believe we must address if we are to win this race to the top and restore trust in our institutions. Creating a skilled workforce of all and not just some. Creating an industrial policy for the country which can create the conditions for good private sector jobs in every region of Britain. Supporting a culture of long-termism in government and business. Reforming markets so they work in the public interest. And ensuring we do not turn inwards as a country, but remain an outward-looking Britain. Now, the first challenge begins from the central insight that in the 21st century, a country's biggest assets are its people, human capital. So many businesses have told me over the last 4 years that their central problem, almost above all others, is they can't get the people they need. And a bit like the other problems, this is a problem we've known about for decades, because we've thought we could succeed with just some of the people of this country having the right skills. We've known for a long time, we've looked at a country like Germany, and we've known that when it comes to middle-level skills, they do so much better than us. That's why the first big reform that we need is of the institutions of the country, so we can give proper qualifications and careers to the 50% of young people who don't go on to academic degrees at university, what I call the forgotten 50% of young people. It's just a simple point. We need good qualifications for 100% of our young people if they are to succeed and if we are to succeed as a country. Now, this work has come out of work that Chris Husbands of the Institute of Education did for us, working with many business leaders from all over Britain. And this is what we'll do as a government. We'll establish a gold standard qualification for vocational skills, so that at age 14, and I think this is a terrible injustice in the country, or even earlier, young people know what they can aspire to as both a vocational and an academic route. Because think about being a 14-year-old today. You might know there's GCSEs and A-levels, but I think if I ask the people in this room to tell me what is the gold standard vocational route, I'm not sure everybody could tell me the answer. You're never going to get the culture of aspiration we need unless we tackle that. We also need to insist that all young people do English and maths up to the age of 18. Reform our welfare state, as Rachel Reeves and I have been talking about, so that young people aren't told if they don't have proper qualifications at the age of 18, well, the right thing to do is to sign on for benefits. The right thing to do is to sign up for training, because if we send those young people out into the world without decent qualifications, they don't have a proper chance of success. And we want to do something else. We want to give employers a leading role for the first time in how money for training is spent. And I know this has been a long-standing complaint of business, that you're not able to shape the money that's spent on training, and therefore you don't end up with young people with the skills that you need. So we want to give businesses across each sector the power and responsibility to drive up the number and quality of apprenticeships. And we want to give a new role to local enterprise partnerships to make sure the skills being taught locally are what they need. So if you want to know the educational priority of my government, it will be this. Every young person deserves a route to good qualifications and a career, not just some of our young people. It is right for them, it is right for business, and it is right for our country. And I will do everything I can as Prime Minister to end the culture that says the academic route, the university route, is always best, and vocational skills, apprenticeships, are always second best. And believe me, I hear that from lots of young people who are doing apprenticeships who say there just wasn't a culture of encouraging them to do them. They had to find their own way there.